Between late 1987 and mid 1988, a rash of UFO sightings was seen in the skies above Gulf Breeze, Florida. One of the people named Ed Walters took numerous photos of a specific UFO. He is claiming that what he took was the legitimate deal. However, some people have been throwing in some concerns regarding the legitimacy of these photos. Where does the truth lie, ladies and gentlemen? Does it lie in the fact that Ed Walters is telling us the truth, or does a conveniently placed prop ruin his entire story? My name is Jeff, aka GCurse, welcoming you all to another installment of Unsolved Mysteries Commentary. In this installment, we will be looking at the case file of the Gulf Breeze UFO. Let's get on to that, shall we?
Do you see those lights? What are those lights?
So basically, this is just a reminder that this is a lost media case, which means that it is not available on streaming on any of the platforms that Unsolved Mysteries is housed on. Because of that, I will not be using any filters. So what you're going to see is basically what was there when it was broadcast on television. Let's get to that, shall we? Okay, video is up. 3, 2, 1. This is the one thing that always kind of drives me nuts. And it's not a bad thing. It's just, I just wish when it came to these case titles or these case, yeah, I guess the case titles would be a good word for it. I just wish it would say that, like, UFOs or ghosts. Yeah, like, to me, the unexplained, it's something that really cannot be explained. Yes, you cannot explain ghosts or UFOs, but I look at unexplained and I think of, like, say, spontaneous combustion or rainbow, for example. When I see UFOs, I think of UFOs. I don't think of unexplained.
According to a recent Gallup poll, 49% of Americans believe that UFOs are real. I'm standing here with 33 residents of Gulf Breeze, Florida, who claim to have seen a UFO.
Okay, now just so everybody knows, this is actually going to be a longer video. This is like, with the exception of, like, say, the Son of Sam case, or the Alcatraz case, or the Rudolph Hess case, this is one of the longer cases. It went in at about 31 minutes. So this is actually a thorough video. So this overall installment of Unsolved Mysteries Commentary, it is going to be a longer one. But this is also one of the few times I can recall Robert Stack actually being in, like, a large group of people. Yeah, once in a while you'd see people kind of milling about in the background, like, say, if he was, like, at a police station or maybe out at a park or something. But this is one of the few times I can recall that he was actually in a large group of people that you can actually see in this shot right here.
These are reliable witnesses, teachers, doctors, a retired newspaper editor. Hardly the type of people to invite ridicule or perpetrate a hoax. Tonight they're going to tell the story of their strange experiences. 135 people in Gulf Breeze have had 80 different sightings since last November.
It'd be one thing to be able to say if it was just like one person. Okay, that one person is a fruitcake. He's the town crier, basically. He's a nut job. But when you have let's say over 50 people. Yeah, I know that he said 80, but I'm just going to say over. That should tell you that something is going on.
They believe that what they've seen is real. And some even claim to have photographed the UFOs.
Gulf Breeze is a small bedroom community located on Florida's northwestern coast. Bordered by several military bases, Gulf Breeze is home to many professional people.
Okay, so the first thing right off the bat, I'm thinking of when they say several military bases, the first thing I'm thinking of, okay, what they're seeing is possibly, like, say, a field test of a new, of an undesignated, flying vehicle from the Army.
And has one of the highest per capita incomes of any town in Florida. Gulf Breeze was a normal American town, a until the night of November 11th, 1987. On that night, a man we will call Ray sat in his study. Because of the controversy that has arisen over his experiences, he asked to have his real name withheld.
Okay, this is something that just kind of makes me scratch my head. Clearly, when it comes to, and it isn't just UFO cases, it could be ghost cases, it could be murder cases. If you don't do anything wrong, why do you feel the need to hide your identification? I'm not saying like dox yourself, but like literally, why at least use your first name, or something. Why do you feel the need to hide it if you didn't do anything wrong? And when I hear things like this, the first thing, it's the critical side of me. The first thing I instantly think is that, okay, what are they hiding? There was a case. Oh God, I can't recall what the case was. It was one of the earlier seasons where a guy was supposed to have robbed a gas station. It was a final appeals case. It's the case where him and a friend went to steal Polish sausages that they were eating in a grocery store. The victim was in silhouette. He refused to give his name. He went by the name Doyle, if I remember correctly. You're a victim. You're a victim. Why are you hiding this? Well, if what you're saying is the truth, why do you feel the need to hide the fact that you are a victim? It's kind of like that when it comes to this case. It's like you literally didn't do anything wrong. You had the bad luck of looking outside at a specific time and you saw a UFO. What is there to hide? You should be proud to say, hey, I saw something that could be, a major change for the course of humanity. But he decides to hide it. Why? Why are you hiding it?
At approximately 5 p.m., Ray noticed a strange light in the dusk sky. He went outside to take a closer look and saw a large glowing object hovering 200 feet away. The object made no sound.
You know damn well, that if this actually happened today, everybody would have their cell phones out looking like a damn fool, with their camera like, oh, look at this. Oh, this is going to pop. I'm going to put this on TikTok or YouTube. I'm going to become internet famous. It wasn't like that back in the 80s. It wasn't like that. Literally back then you had cameras. And if you didn't have a camera, you were out of luck. You were out of luck.
With his Polaroid camera, Ray took these
smart move. He had a Polaroid camera.
5 photographs. Though Ray preferred not to be interviewed, he did consent to his photographs being televised.
And these are some of the images you're going to see in the background here. Every time I do an installment of Unsolved Mysteries Commentary, the backgrounds that you see on my recording software here, it is actually images I use from the video itself.
I'm convinced that this was the same thing that everyone in Gulf Breeze has been seeing and has been taking pictures of. I don't know what it was. I know it was something I've never seen before.
It's a UFO. You don't need to sugarcoat it. You don't need to play coy. Just say what you feel is on your mind, lady. Say it's a UFO. Say it scared the living crap out of me. I'm not used to seeing these things, and here you have something like this flying straight down Main Avenue. There's nothing to be ashamed of. Just say how you feel, lady.
Those first pictures that came out, there's just no doubt in my mind that this photographer took pictures of whatever it was that we saw.
We didn't have a camera to get pictures, but somebody got pictures, and it's just exactly like...
This lady's a national treasure. We didn't have a camera. Somebody had a camera, but we didn't have a camera. I like this lady. This lady's awesome.
We saw it.
5 days after his sighting, Ray brought the pictures to the attention of Dwayne Cook, the editor of the Gulf Breeze Sentinel.
It's kind of weird nowadays. If you really think about it. If something big happens nowadays, society seems to have changed, hasn't it, ladies and gentlemen? It seems to have changed. Literally, nowadays, everybody is trying to get their 15 minutes of fame. They're trying to get their 15 minutes of fame. However, back then, people were so modest. When did we change? When did we change? I wish we were back, in this level of modesty. Maybe we wouldn't have all these morons on, like, say, TikTok or YouTube or X or whatever, doing stupid crap. Maybe that's what we need. We need to have a reset back to modesty and everything.
Cook had concerns about printing these photographs. He felt that UFO stories were better suited to tabloids than to a local newspaper.
Looks pretty good. I had serious reservations about it.
I disagree also about it being relegated to tabloids. If this is a threat that, if you view this as something like a threat to the point that you should hide your identity. If it is such a threat to you that you cannot go out there and say, hey, my name is this, I took these pictures. If you feel like it's such a threat, then you need to let your entire city know. You let the country know. Why? And that the best way to do that back in the 80s and 90s, of course, was on the newspaper. Why do you feel that if it is so dangerous, why do you feel the need to only have it in the tabloid magazines? Something's not ringing right with this guy. I'm sorry. And maybe this is what he was afraid of, that people would doubt him. Well, when you already, don't give permission for people at least to know your first name. And if I remember correctly, I don't think he shows up at all in the video. He may, I can't recall. When you do these things that, kind of cast doubts on you, you shouldn't be shocked when people like me be like, you know what? I don't trust this guy. It's literally all about, the message you want to send. And if your message is kind of hidden behind you wanting to remain secret, it kind of makes me not trust you all, like
running this, the 5 pictures or even mentioning them. And then coincidentally, my folks were coming through that afternoon or on their way to lunch. So when they came in, we took them to the back and said, you're not going to believe what we're going to put in this week's paper. And they went back and they looked at the pictures and they looked at the page that we're making up and looked at each other and said, Charlie, is that what we saw?
And see, right there, that should give you the courage. That should give you the courage to come out going, yeah, I took those pictures. Because if some people are willing to come out and basically say, hey, we saw these things, it gives you should give you a little bit of encouragement. It's like, hey, I'm not crazy. These people saw this. I'm not crazy.
Publication of these photographs on November 19th, reports of UFOs became an almost daily occurrence.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Over a 6-month period, 135 people in Gulf Breeze reported 80 different sightings.
Okay, here, let's do some research. Shall we, ladies and gentlemen? Let's do research. I love research. I hope you like research, because I love research. I love research a lot. Let's see here. Okay. Do this, followed by, let's see here, Gulf Breeze, Florida UFOs. I'm just curious, is there still what is the current status? Gulf Breeze UFO incident. Like, how long did it last? Let's see here. Oh, wow, it only lasted a few months. According to this, it went from November 11th, 1987 to May 1st, 1988. I thought this was like something that lasted like for years, maybe a decade or something, but no, it was less than a year. Huh. Investigation. Let's see, eyewitness reports. I'm just seeing if it had in the media. Does it say? Aha! It was on Unsolved Mysteries. It actually mentions it. Okay. But yeah, so I actually thought that this lasted a lot longer, but it only lasted less than a full year. It was only, let's see here, November to December to January, February, March, April. Yeah, a little under 6 months. I expected this to last a lot longer. Hey, I was wrong. I was wrong.
The object was very large. I would say the size of a medium size or large airplane.
We could see it well enough that we could see the light and see the portholes and see that there was like a little lighted dome on the top.
It didn't make any noise at all, and it was maybe going about 5 miles per hour at the most.
See, I trust these people because at least they're coming on out. I trust Mr. Scott Sipp here more than I do the person who took the pictures because at least they came out.
I saw a light in the distance that was very bright yellow-orange and quite different from any light I'd ever seen before.
And then when it went straight up into the air with a complete blue background and just sat there at an angle for about, I'd say 45 seconds to a full minute, it sat there.
We noticed the water below it. There was no motion of the water. It did not stir up the water.
Having seen it myself, then I'm convinced now that yes, these exist. But up until that time, I hadn't even thought about UFOs as one of those things. Until you actually experience something, you don't think too much about it.
And that's one thing you kind of get when it comes to Unsolved Mysteries. You always have the people that either like, I just didn't think about UFOs, like say in this case that this guy just said he didn't think about UFOs. It wasn't a positive or negative. It just didn't really cross his mind. Or, oh God, I can't recall the name of the case. It was the one where the lady, like the grandmother, her grandson and their friend were driving like on a back road, and they ended up having this encounter with a UFO, and they all ended up getting like symptoms, something like cancer. The one of the ladies just refused to believe in UFOs, refused to believe in little green men. Instead, it was the government, in her opinion. You always tend to get like these two camps. Like one camp is, I just didn't think about it being a UFO, it didn't cross my mind. And then you have another camp that's like, I don't believe in little green man. Where do I fall in it? I like to think that anything is possible. I refuse to believe and be so smug and think that we are the only ones out here in this giant universe that is an intelligent species. I think there are other intelligent species. However, I don't take the same position that a lot of UFO supporters do. I take the stance that most likely, if there are UFOs, intelligent civilizations, they will not come here to give the gift of technology. No, odds are that they are most likely an expanding empire, and they will come here to take us over, basically.
From November to May, Ray took 37 different pictures of the UFOs. When asked if these pictures were a hoax, Ray took 2 polygraph tests and passed them both. Still, some experts believe that the photographs were faked.
Okay, now, I don't want to spoil it, but I think at the end of this video, I think they found evidence in an attic or something that this could have been faked. If it was faked, how did he get past those 2 polygraph tests, though?
They point out the obvious brightness around the craft and note the lack of reflection upon the light poles and trees. To other skeptics, it seems the bottom of the UFO is unnaturally flattened, as if resting on a board.
And the thing is, you can't, this was back in the 80s. 88 to be exact. Wait, was it 88 or 87, 88? Whatever, it was in the 80s. This was before everybody had a computer in their house. And this was definitely before, what's it called? Like, photo editing software. I can't recall what the popular one is called right now. But it was before all of that. So it isn't like somebody could just take a picture, put it on a computer and docs it up and everything to make it look real. We didn't have that technology back then. Technology like that back then was kind of relegated for, like, say, movie production companies and stuff. It wasn't something like it is nowadays where, like, say, I could literally make up an image like that. It wasn't like that back in the 80s. Something is going on, and if this was fake, then they used some practical magic. They used practical magic that they should have been in Hollywood. They should have been in Hollywood working on the movie Aliens or something, if this was faked, totally faked, they would have had a hell of a career working in Hollywood doing special effects. I could imagine the people who did this. I could imagine them actually working on, let's say, either encounters of the close encounters of the third kind, or even like doing something like, say, for Star Trek or something.
I know that I saw what I saw. Anybody who thinks it's a hoax is entitled to their opinion, but I've seen no proof of anything, of any kind, that even hints at the fact that it was a hoax. I've looked for that kind of evidence because I don't want to be made a fool of either. Nobody does, and that would be bad for my community, which I represent. And I found no evidence whatsoever that this is not the real thing.
A television station in nearby Pensacola attempted to show how a hoax could have been accomplished.
The two most prominent hoax theories that we were presented with by skeptics were the pictures are a reflection of an object off a pane of glass. And the second theory was taking a Polaroid camera and creating double-exposed pictures.
It's basically a local model maker made a replica of the UFO, and it was photographed reflected in a large piece of glass.
Okay, well, the thing is, okay, so like right here, what you see here, even if this is what, like, this seems to be pretty believable, but it looks like you have the crane or something in the background holding it up in the air. Like I said, how did they hide that? How did they hide that? I'm sure that they could have used like sheets or something, but wouldn't you have seen like a distortion in the air? That would be caused by the sheet. You can't, if this is outside, for example. If this was outside because it looked like they had tree, they could have had model trees. I don't know. But if this was outside and they had a sheet up there just kind of obscuring the crane, the lift, whatever you call it. If there was a gust of wind, that sheet would have started moving. It would start moving. They would have had to photograph this as quickly as possible to do it without the wind basically catching the sheet. You got to remember, this was really in the primordial time of, like, say, green screen and digital special effects.
The easiest way for people to understand the reflection off a pane of glass theory is you're sitting in your living room at night watching television and you have a lamp on, and you look over and you notice there's a reflection of that lamp in the window. Well, you can photograph that reflection.
Yes, you can.
The resulting photographs were similar, but nowhere near as clear.
Yeah, and also, it doesn't give you a full outside view. It only gives you like it looks like a view as far as the window is.
One of the problems we had when we were creating pictures with the reflection off a pane of glass theory is it was very labor intensive. It took 3 people to do it. And when we did it in a secluded area, and people noticed us doing it. So I think if those pictures in Gulf Breeze were created that way, somebody would have been able to tell by now that it was a hoax. It was too hard to do those reflection pictures without being noticed.
Unless it was done like in a secluded building, like a warehouse, or maybe like an attic or something.
Next, they tried to create a double exposure. Using a camera identical to Ray's, they photographed the model against black velvet, and then in Ray's yard, shot the background image over the same frame of film.
We demonstrated that you can take double exposures with the Polaroid camera.
See, now, I don't know even how to do this, but then again, during 87, 88, or whatever it was, at the youngest, I was like, say, 6. At the oldest, I was 7. So I wouldn't even know how to do this. This is fascinating right here.
He used for some of his pictures. Here's the problem. He only took less than half of his UFO pictures on a camera capable of double exposures. The other cameras he used, it wouldn't work. Number 2, there are at least 2 photos where the UFO is partially hidden behind a tree. You cannot recreate that with double exposures. You can't hide one object over the other because in double exposures, the 2 images blend together.
Oh,
if you are
that's interesting.
Complete skeptic, you would say any photo could be hoaxed.
Bruce Maccabee conducts laser and optical research for the Navy.
If you are more critical about it, then you have to ask the question, could Ray have hoaxed the photo, given his technical ability and his equipment? My answer to that would be quite probably no.
What was all his equipment like? What was his background? I'm wondering. And see, this is the one thing I dislike when people refuse to give their identities. It prevents you from investigating. I'm not saying like dox the guy and harass him, but you know, at least give us a background. Like, what was this guy known for? Was he known for virtual special effects or something? Like, was he a worker in Hollywood? If he was a worker in Hollywood, then he would have these sort of talents. By not giving us all the pieces to the puzzle, it makes it where people like me and like you have to start, you know, kind of filling in the blanks. And sometimes they don't like what it is that we come up with, you know, because it may not be correct. But then again, when you don't give all the information, it makes it hard for us to kind of follow along. Here's the one thing I've noticed. Out of all these cases, they may have, I just don't realize it, but have you noticed that they always ask the armed services? They never go to, like, say, to a Hollywood production company, like, say, WB or MGM or Disney, and show them a picture of this UFO and goes, is it possible with what you guys have with your technology going back, like, say, 86, 87, 88, what you guys have on set right now, is it possible to make this photo? We never hear anything like that. It's always more along the line of, we asked the military. They don't go and ask Hollywood, because you would think that Hollywood, considering that they've been masters of, you know, of either virtual special effects or practical magic, you would think that they would be able to look at this and go, yeah, we can do that. Here, we'll show you how we did it, like, in 3 minutes. They don't do anything like that. They always stay down one lane, and that's the government. Me, if I was investigating this, I would first, you know, I would ask the government. I'd be like, you know, or the armed services, did you guys do this? No. Okay, no. You know, always be skeptical, but they said no. Then go to Hollywood. Hey, Jeff, how's it going? Oh, I'm doing pretty good, Daryl. How are you doing? Oh, I'm doing good, Jeff. Nice to see you, Jeff. What can I do for you, Jeff? Hey, I'm investigating this weird UFO that appeared in Gulf Breeze, Florida. I got a picture of it. Oh, you got a picture here. Can you show it to me? Oh, yeah, here's a picture. Here you go, Daryl. Daryl takes a look. I'm curious, Daryl. Can you show me? Could you possibly do this? Yeah, I can do this. No problem. Let me give me like 10 minutes. I got to clear out a portion of the studio so I can get everything set up, and I will show you how we can do this. They don't do something like that. It's always just one mode, one way, and that's the military.
On December 3rd, the Sentinel received 2 anonymous photographs that showed the by now familiar object.
You know what it kind of reminds me of? It reminds me of a cupcake. Yes, I know. Fat guy talking about food. Yes, I know, but it looks like a cupcake.
Then on December 23rd, the paper received another letter from a photographer. This time the photos showed more than one UFO.
Now, see, to this, considering how dark it is, I would think that this could be something manufactured, because it's so dark you can't really see that much.
The day after this photograph allegedly was taken, Ray also took pictures of multiple objects.
Oh no, Ray has 3! It started off with 1, what I call the cupcake model. And then we have the one with the 2, I call those the frisbee models because you can't really see them. And now we got 3! We got 3! It seems like they're trying to one-up each other. Oh, well, wait, you have 1? Well, we got 2. Oh, well, you got 2? Well, look at me, I got 3. You know, and that's how it's, I swear to God, if somebody goes, I took a picture of 4, I'm going to throw off my headphone and be like, okay, that's it, I'm done.
If this was a hoax, it was flawlessly coordinated. Ray continued to see and photograph the UFOs hovering over Gulf Breeze, and other eyewitnesses kept seeing objects they couldn't explain.
People were organizing parties, UFO, search parties. They'd go out and for the fun of it, or they were serious, but a lot more people were looking up at the sky and paying much more attention to what is flying around up there.
On December 28th, Ray even captured them on videotape. This video footage was scrutinized by UFO experts.
Yeah, I scrutinized too. I don't see
in as much as the videotape clearly shows a craft that is indeed similar to the photographs that we've seen. This, we have presume, is the same type of craft. We hope to be able to clearly show, and I think we have at this point clearly shown, that this is indeed a flying craft that is not operated by remote control.
In another picture, taken on December 2nd, Ray photographed a shaft of blue light emanating from the base of the object.
You know what I think that is? I can't recall what it's called, but like I think it's called like a diffusion. They actually talked about it in another UFO case on Unsolved Mysteries a while later, where a lady was she had like a farm. It was in Canada, if I remember correctly, and it was the one with the VHS tape with a thumbnail, a thumbprint or fingerprint on the VHS tape. I think they said it's called like a light diffusion, where basically a beam of light is shined into the camera, and basically it makes that like that beam of light look or something like that. That's what that reminds me of.
This light was also observed by 5 other witnesses. Ray's closest encounter took place on January 12, 1988. He was driving along a deserted road about 4 miles from his home. The sudden appearance of a bright light forced him off the road. He reached for his Polaroid camera and snapped what Dr. Maccabee believes to be a classic UFO photograph.
I termed it
Wait, so this UFO was literally ground level then?
classic because of the convincingness of the picture. You can see the front of the truck, and you see the road leading away from the truck right over to the object itself, going right under the object. You see the trees in the background. This
Now this, I don't think that this is a fake. If this was a fake, that means that they would have to try and film this or photo this, and get it done quickly before people start, possibly, like, depending on what that road is. If that road is like a thoroughfare, or if it's a road, like a back road that leads to houses or something, they would have to get out there, boom, turn on the light, you get in the car, take a picture and all that. To me, this doesn't seem like it's a fake. This seems like it could be the real deal.
gives you a sense of actually being able to locate the object in three-dimensional space as being out there.
Dr. Maccabee calculated that the object was 12 feet wide and 9 feet tall.
Okay, so, even judging, like, say, going by what, I think they were called grays, the aliens, they were called grays, they were almost like the black eyes and everything. At the most, they were like, what, 4 to 5 feet tall? This thing seems like it would be pretty small. It'd have to be like a small crew, like 1 or 2 individuals.
The final reported sighting in Gulf Breeze took place in July. But 2 questions remain. Why was Ray able to take so many photographs of these elusive objects? And why was Gulf Breeze a place where this phenomenon occurred?
I don't know why it happened to Gulf Breeze, but I am convinced that the reason that one individual has been able to have 22 encounters, including 18 separate photographic sessions, is because somebody in the UFOs wanted him to take photographs. Otherwise, he would not have had all those sessions.
Why are they coming to Gulf Breeze? Well, you've got all this military presence here. Eglin Air Force Base, the Naval Air.
Of course, it's the armed services. I would love to know where, like, I know it happened where area fit, is it Kecksburg? I can't recall if it was Kecksburg, but because of the Army, taking that walnut-shaped UFO out of there, everybody thinks that it's the military. I don't always think that it's military. Do they have a hand in it? Sometimes, possibly, but I don't think it's always military. Hell, look at it the way it is now, ladies and gentlemen. We have private companies shooting rockets into space. And you're telling me that these private organizations, these private businesses, whatnot, that they cannot produce a UFO, that it's only the military complex that can do this? Really? Really? Really?
Air station in Pensacola, some smaller military installations. If I was coming from another planet and wanted to spy on Earthlings and wanted to get a good look at their military, Gulf Breeze is a pretty darn good place to do that.
While there is logic, I will give him to that. While there is logic, wouldn't you rather go and spy upon like the major headquarters, like say the Pentagon or the White House, like where the central brain, I guess you could say? Yeah, there are bases in Gulf Breeze, but wouldn't you rather want to look at where their headquarters are?
If that's indeed what they're doing, if this is real.
Some skeptics suggest that the objects were military aircraft being tested at nearby Pensacola Naval Air Station.
And that's a possibility. If it is, I'm not going to interfere. It's like if they're trying to test new items to keep the people safe, who are we to do anything about it? They're trying to keep us safe.
We've contacted the public information offices at the military bases around here and asked them if they knew anything about it. And basically their answer was no, and even if we did, we wouldn't be able to make a comment on that.
Even our own county commissioner, who's a retired Air Force test pilot, said no, he doesn't think, he went on record in our paper as saying no, he didn't think it was military because our military does not have aircraft that can move in the fashion that this moves, especially without making any noise.
My best guess is that their technology is, rather than thousands of years ahead of us, perhaps hundreds of thousands of years ahead of us.
I probably won't believe this case 100% until the thing lands in my backyard and the creatures get out and shake my hand. But I do believe it's very possible, based on the evidence we have now, that this case could possibly be real. I will go that far.
Despite the best efforts of skeptics, some sightings simply cannot be explained away, though the possibility of a hoax can't be dismissed.
For all we know, there may be a couple aliens, that are disguised as human beings in that group right there.
The people standing here with me are certain that they saw something that defies easy explanation. A noted astronomer once said that the universe is not only stranger than we imagine, it is stranger than we can imagine. Few people living here in Gulf Breeze, Florida, would argue with that statement.
Two years ago, we investigated a rash of apparent...
Okay, so I should have stopped it earlier, a second ago. Basically, when I got this video ready for this, because this was already uploaded as part of the Lost Legacy collection. Basically, there was two videos to this. There's the base video and then the update. This, what we're watching now, is the update, and the update, actually, I think the update is actually a little bit longer than the actual base video itself.
UFO sightings which took place in Gulf Breeze, Florida between November of 1987 and May of 1988. Remarkably, one local resident managed to take 38 photographs of what appeared to be a flying saucer. At the time, the photographer of the UFOs requested strict anonymity. Since then, he has gone public with a book about his
Okay, so he has gone public. Okay.
experiences.
Charlie, I don't know if I can get that expanded out there like that or not. This is just running way over on the square footage.
His name is Ed Walters, a building contractor and developer who has lived in Gulf Breeze with his wife and 2 children for nearly 10 years.
Okay. Well, look, let me try that and I'll get back to you.
This is a very conservative town. I'm a very conservative guy, and I always thought that UFOs were something that people saw that were not quite all there. And suddenly having to deal with the reality that I did see something was absolutely mind-blowing. But I didn't want to be known as a builder who saw UFOs.
What? Why? Like, there's nothing wrong, like if you are telling the truth and what you saw was what you took the picture and everything and that it was real, 100%. What do you have to be ashamed of? You are literally watching something history making, possibly.
Naturally, the authenticity of these remarkable photographs was questioned. Since no one had actually seen Ed taking the pictures, there was a strong possibility that they had been hoaxed. But during the 7-month period that these photographs were taken, no less than 100 citizens in the area claimed they saw the same object seen in the pictures.
I will not deny that they saw something. Did they see this though? And I'm not sure if what they saw was this, because what this is, you can see it's a shape, you can actually see it. A lot of the other photos, it was kind of dark and it was kind of flat. The UFOs were kind of more flat. Do I deny that they saw something? No, I just don't think what they saw was that though. I think what this is, I think it's actually more, I think it is unique to the person, oh God, whatever his name was, to that person who took those photos.
I don't know what it was. I know it was something I've never seen before.
The object was very large. I would say the size of a medium size, a large airplane.
We could see the light and see the portholes and see that there was like a little lighted dome on the top.
Recent events in Gulf Breeze have put the debate back in the news. Dramatic new evidence has appeared which suggests that Ed Walters did hoax his photographs.
Ed Walters is extremely intelligent, smarter than I am, I'm sure. And he's managed to create a story and keep the story fed and keep it going for years now.
I haven't heard any evidence, say nothing about proof, to really suggest that the photographs are hoaxes.
What I would do is just see if, just ask him, have you benefited from this at all? Have you benefited from this all? I think they said that he released a book, possibly. I can't recall if they said he released a book, but did he go on television? Is he doing something that really generated a lot of money? Because if he is, then that would kind of make me question it a little bit more.
There's more which points to it as a hoax than the truth.
There is very little evidence that Ed hoaxed these pictures.
Ed will never, ever admit to it being a fraud, even if it goes to court, even if he goes to jail. No matter what happens, he'll never admit that it's fraud.
Well, of course he's never going to admit to it being a fraud, because if he admitted to it that it being a fraud, then he'd have a lot of pissed off people, especially the people who, there are people who live and die by the idea that UFOs, are real. I'm not talking about just your typical everyday people. I'm talking about like hardcore UFO believers. They probably, the thing is that they possibly see this guy as some sort of, of integral person, very important. If he was literally go, yeah, I faked it all to make money, these people would be upset. So he's not going to just come out and say that he did, that he faked everything. He's too far in at this point. He's too far in.
The Gulf Breeze UFO sightings have become a fulcrum of controversy. If Ed Walters is telling the truth, then he's managed to obtain evidence that UFOs do exist. If he's fabricating his story and his pictures, then he may be an opportunistic liar who has not only brilliantly deceived the media, but his neighbors and friends as well.
And I think that's another reason why, I think that possibly what it was he, if this was fake, and I think they said that they found something in his attic. We're going to cover that more when we get to the wiki portion of this installment. But the thing is, I think originally he was just going to take one picture. He figured that he'd take one picture and that'd be it. No more. One picture. And then it's a whole the fame bug, I guess you could call it. People started, looking up to him, started, talking about him. He started getting that attention, and he's like, oh my God. If I keep taking pictures, more people talk about me. And it got to that point, like we didn't have YouTube. So basically, he would start becoming more of like, say, a folk hero or a figure in the community. Hey, did you hear about this guy? He saw UFOs. He starts getting people talking about him, and ultimately, I think that's what, he really started feeding off of.
Recently, a bizarre chain of events has occurred that supports both conclusions. Our update of this most improbable tale begins with a chance discovery made in March of this year. Many of the pictures taken by Ed Walters were shot just outside of his home in Gulf Breeze. Ed and his family moved in December of 1988. 10 months later, the house was purchased by Bob and Sarah Lee Menzer, who moved to Gulf Breeze from Washington, D.C. At the time, they were unaware of Ed Walters and his controversial photographs. Four months after they moved in, Bob Menzer went into his attic looking for a shutoff valve for the water pipes.
I was finally getting around to installing the ice maker in the refrigerator. I was tracing the pipe through the attic and moving insulation aside. When I uncovered the model, I didn't think much about it. It was just a curiosity that it was there. And
Okay, now this is the one thing. If this guy is telling the truth, and he was up there, trying to locate the piping to install the ice maker and everything, and he came across the prop basically. Why didn't Ed originally? When he moved out, what did he just totally conveniently forget that he had this artifact, this prop, whatever you want to call it? Did he literally forget that it was there? You would kind of think that if you were able to successfully, hoodwink an entire community, that you were able to successfully fool these people for at least over a year at this point when he sold the house, that he was able to successfully pull the wool over these people's. You would think that he would, before he moved out, he'd have a checklist. Okay, yes, bedroom is all empty. The children's old bedrooms are empty. Garage is empty. Get the prop out of the attic. Oh, that's right. You gotta go. You're telling me he forgot about the prop? You're telling me the guy forgot about the prop? I don't understand the logic. If it was me, if I was able to have successfully fooled everybody in my community, when I told them I saw UFOs and I took photos and everything, as soon as I decided to stop taking photos, I would have destroyed that prop. I would have chopped it up. I would have set it on fire in the backyard. That thing would have been erased. What did this guy do? He buried it in the insulation in his attic. And then he totally forgot. He totally forgot that it was there. Like, oh my God. How do you forget that something that was possibly instrumental in this massive fraud, basically? How do you forget that it's in your attic?
I was not aware at that time of the significance attached to a model of a UFO.
I said, oh, it looks like something maybe one of Ed's children made. I didn't look at the detail of workmanship. I saw that it was made out of paper plates. And that's all I thought about it.
The Menzers put the model on a shelf in the garage and forgot about it. It remained there, undisturbed, for the next 2 months.
Good evening, sir. I'm a reporter with the Pensacola News Journal.
In June, reporter Craig Myers of the Pensacola...
I was halfway expecting that to be Ed himself, be like, yes, I'm the guy that you bought this house from. I'm just curious, I may have forgot something in the attic. Do you mind if I go in and take a quick look?
Pensacola News Journal visited the Menzers.
We're doing follow-up stories on the Ed Walters sightings.
Well, he first asked whether we had found anything in the house when we moved in that would indicate any activity having to do with UFOs.
Nothing unusual in
whether we had found any photographs or anything that might be associated with UFOs.
There may be something over here.
Perhaps maybe a model of a UFO?
Well, yeah, there was a model. We did find a model. He expressed interest in the fact that I had found the model and wanted to see it, so we showed it to him. He then asked if he...
Hey, finders keepers, they bought the house. See, this is why I say you should always go through the house, because once you sell the house and once it's bought, to me it's finders keepers. You know, that he should have been more careful. I still don't understand how this guy forgot that he left the prop of the UFO in the act. I don't understand how he. Maybe I'm paranoid like that. Me, if I perpetrated a massive fraud, basically, to the community, I would be a little bit more paranoid about where I kept this thing that I used to fool everybody with.
He could borrow it and take it to the offices of the newspaper. And I, at that time, didn't see any reason why he shouldn't, so we let him do that.
The following week, the story of the model's discovery threw Gulf Breeze into an uproar. Once more, the cry of hoax reverberated through the town.
Oh! Ah, crap, I found it!
Fabrication, a prank done by somebody unknown in an effort to discredit me and also in an effort to discredit the Gulf Breeze sightings in general.
The Pensacola paper showed how the model could have been used in a hoax. This is a picture the paper took using the model. This is one of Ed's original photographs.
It does look a little bit different, especially towards the top. The top seems to have like a lighted, pointed, tip. The other one doesn't. But still, okay, he claims that is he claiming that the prop was placed there? I'm guessing it could be, maybe somebody wanted to do business with Ed, and Ed's like, no, I'm not going to do business with you. What I saw was real. I saw an actual UFO, and I'm not going to get into business with you. You're too shadowy for me. You're too weird. I'm not going to get in business with you. And the person's like, fine, he's not going to do business with me. I'm going to ruin him. They could have gotten into the house after it was emptied and Ed moved out, got into the attic and placed it there. At least that's what I'm thinking, possibly.
I think the model that was found closely resembles many of Ed Walter's pictures. It doesn't exactly match, but it's very close. And perhaps there is another model or a variation.
What I would have done is, try to take a picture of that model during the same time of night and everything. See if you could get the lighting done correctly. If you could get the lighting done correctly and have it where that tip is actually kind of shown at the top of the UFO, then I'd be more willing to say, okay, now this is something not right. Yeah.
Of that paper plate model that is actually the one that appears in the pictures, if this is a hoax.
The model is 9 inches across and 6 inches high. The black portholes are drawn on a strip of drafting paper, which has been cut from one of Ed Walter's discarded house designs.
After a little bit of research, we discovered that this plan that makes the center part of this model was designed in September the 7th, 1989. 2 years removed from when I took the photographs of the object in the sky in 1987.
The finding of a model is of no consequence to our sighting because what we saw was not a model.
The truth is that I know that what I saw could not have been a small model.
And that's why I'm saying what they saw was totally different than what Ed took a picture of. I'm not denying that these people saw something, because like I said, what they saw looked like it was different from the photos, like they were darker and a little bit more smushed, I guess you could say. If Ed did make that prop, it really makes me wonder, why did you leave it there? How could you have forgotten that it was there?
Dangled in the sky, made out of paper plates. That just is not possible.
The photographs of Ed Walters are a hoax, were created for the purpose of starting the UFO as a topic of interest.
Okay, what would he get out of it, though? What would he really get out of it? Clearly, and what would the other people who saw these UFOs, what would they get out of it?
And ultimately became a way for him to make a great deal of money off of a publication as well as anything else that may follow from it.
Okay, that covers Ed, but what about the other people?
The discovery of this model made skeptics out of people who so far had been willing to take Ed's word, but others in Gulf Breeze believed Ed implicitly.
And see, this is why I said that's earlier in this installment, I literally said that by not coming out and everything when he could have, it really kind of just damaged his reputation, possibly.
Last January, Ed Walters saw and photographed yet another UFO, and this time he was not alone.
January 8th was a normal night. It was a lovely night. Francis and I went out for our evening walk, and as I walked down the road, I cast my head over and talking to my wife, and I saw the red object in the sky.
Look, honey, there it is. It's back.
And I knew right away that I was looking at the UFO. It was high in the sky, and it was relatively bright, brighter when I first saw it than when we saw it later. I had been criticized in the past for not calling quickly when I saw the UFO, and so
You know, I think that if he wasn't paying attention, he would run that cat over.
Francis and I ran back to the house. I got on the phone and began calling investigators. Ended up getting 3 answering machines in a row. I finally called quickly Dwayne Cook, got him, said, look, there's this thing that's about a block away from the house and very high in the sky, but very clear, come quick.
Moments later, Ed was joined by Brenda and Buddy Pollock, Dwayne and Doree Cook, and Doree's son, Chip Holston.
As we pulled up, he was just setting up the camera in the street. At first, we didn't see anything, and Ed was distraught. You don't see it? You don't see it? I'm looking at it. After we watched for a while, we did, in fact, see a red glowing spot up there. I was a bit disappointed right up front because I was expecting, when he said a big glowing object, to see something like this, and when in fact it was really more something like this.
I was trying to take photographs of it.
Now, I'm not sure what it's called, but I'm thinking like the light that is on the back of an airplane, like where the tail fin is, or the rudders, or whatever they're called. You know, it's that light that goes off and on, you know. But the thing is, even it can't be that, because if it was an airplane, it would have been long gone by the time that these people were starting to gather. Airplanes don't normally hover like that. And why would they decide to hover right above this one spot? You know, I don't buy it. I don't buy it. So it makes me think that it could have been a UFO.
But with this 200 and something millimeter lens, it was very difficult. It was moving around, and I was trying to follow it, and it was really hard. I managed to take a couple of shots.
Hey, it's a heart. It loves us.
A more distinct picture was taken by Chip Holston.
When I took the picture, I was looking through Ed's camera. You could see it so much better through the camera. It was really amazing. Definitely, I've never seen anything like that before. It wasn't...
Okay, what is the difference? I'm really wondering, like, what the difference is between Ed's camera and what these other people have.
like a helicopter or airplane that, you know, like an airplane's always moving, and a helicopter is just kind of sitting there hovering around. And this was different, like it was floating or something. It was really weird.
This is the photograph taken by Chip. Perhaps the most remarkable photo taken that night was snapped by Brenda Pollock using the camera she had brought with her.
Soon the light went out. And at that point, when it was in the black phase, I did get to take a picture because it stayed still long enough.
So if it stayed still and they weren't hearing any noises, then that makes me think that it could have been a UFO, because if it was a helicopter, you'd be able to hear the motor of the helicopter. If it was an airplane, it would have to be constantly moving, you know, at a specific rate.
For me to be able to get off a shot.
None of the witnesses had seen what appeared in Brenda's photo with the naked eye. By the time Brenda took this photograph, the light had gone out. She used a time exposure and handheld the camera, which may account for the streak, even though the object was not lit up at the time. Amazingly,
photographic experts are able to count 110 different color changes in Brenda's 3-second exposure.
It was unusual in that it did not have sharply defined edges like the light on an airplane or the light at the top of our water tank here in Gulf Breeze. It was more like fuzzy or irregular edges, and behind the red you could see a round silhouette of an object or a craft of some kind that was unlit.
The pictures taken on January 8th are markedly different from earlier UFO photographs. Ed Walters believes the distance and movement of the object that night are what accounts for this. To many, the presence of 5 witnesses bolstered Ed's claim that his earlier photos were real. It was only the second time anyone other than an immediate family member had seen him photograph a UFO.
It was wonderful to be with a crowd of people and stand there and watch this object, because it's no longer that you're on your own.
And the fact is, even if people say that it's a fake, it's a fraud, he would have to try and convince 5 people, or maybe it's 4. I'm not sure exactly how many. I think they said 5, but he'd have to try and convince 5 people who just showed up to go along with this hoax, if that's what it is.
January 8th UFO sighting seemed to strengthen Ed's case that his photographs were no hoaxes. But then the UFO model hit the front pages, and 1 week later Ed suffered another devastating setback. A young Gulf Breeze resident came forward and claimed that 2.5 years earlier he had helped Ed Walters to hoax UFO photographs. This surprise witness was 20-year-old Tommy Smith, and as his story unfolded, people in Gulf Breeze didn't know who or what to believe.
In an effort to verify Tommy's account, we had him walk through the procedure.
In a local newscast, Tommy Smith demonstrated how Ed Walters managed to hoax the pictures by using a model.
It had the, like I said, the tripod down below with the actual flashlight taped to it. It's one of the flashlights with the red buttons that snap on and off, and pipe on top, piece of tape around it, and everything was black.
According to Tommy, in January of 19...
Well, that can't be totally true, because there were some of the pictures that were taken had trees. If literally they did it in the hallway of this house, for example, where did the trees come from?
In 1988, Ed gave him these 6 pictures and told him to take them to the local papers.
2 main reasons why I didn't go through with it was because I was lying to my folks, basically, and also the fact that I just felt like it was fraud.
For 2 years, Tommy kept his knowledge secret from everyone except his parents. But after the discovery of the model, he decided to go public. Today it is Tommy's word against Ed's, and nobody knows who is telling the truth.
He had a spot on the floor where he could basically kneel or sit and photograph the model every single time.
The thing that impressed me most about Tommy was, first, his sincerity. He seemed very honest, very...
Sincerity doesn't mean anything to me. I want to hear hard facts. How did they do, like for me, the big thing is how was he able to do the tree, the UFO with the tree? Because the UFO was like partially behind the tree, if I remember correctly. That's a perspective issue. Like how did they do it? That's what I want to hear. How were they able to have done that shot? Because it also looked like it was still like just barely enough light out there for it to be seen and everything.
Forthright.
I was sitting in the bedroom, and he went into the closet and pulled one model out and said, "No, wrong one," stuck it back up and pulled another one out.
Tommy's statements don't check out. No matter how nicely he says them and how sincerely he says them, they don't check out.
Very simply, Tommy has no axe to grind in this. Tommy has nothing to gain by coming forward and offering the details of the story that he knows.
I remember that the model it was a set of two sets of plates with a strip of paper around the middle.
I have been studied for 2.5 years. Every word that I have uttered has been examined and cross-examined. Why is it that we're suddenly supposed to believe, without any examination, every word that this young man says just because he happens to be a naysayer?
There are several disturbing aspects to Tommy Smith's story.
Okay, so like right here. How? How? You have trees, you have clouds, you have sky. How is this a product of what they apparently they did in the hallway?
Ed has published 38 photographs, but Tommy maintains that he knows only of the 6 fakes, which are not among the 38. If Tommy knew Ed was conducting a hoax, why did he wait over 2 years before exposing it?
At first, I didn't think it would get that big. I really didn't. And then
Something's not sitting right with me. It's hard for me to explain, but it just doesn't feel right, ladies and gentlemen. It's like you know what you're hearing, it isn't right, but you can't point a finger and say why. You just get that feeling. It's like that gut feeling. Something is not right with this.
And as it got bigger and bigger and bigger, I just said to myself, hey,
And besides, why is it that the only photos that he claimed were fake were the 6 that apparently that were not published at all? The ones that were not published, it may be me, but I couldn't really tell if they were the same prop that was used in the other photos.
if I go forward now, what proof do I have and why should people believe me?
What is the real truth behind the Gulf Breeze sightings? Despite Ed Walters' claims to the contrary, there is considerable evidence that his photographs may be fakes. Some experts have called this picture a classic UFO photograph. However, reporter Mark Curtis demonstrated in one of his newscasts how it could have been faked.
Okay, let's hear it. How could it have been fake? Because right now you got like the background and everything.
Using a large black backdrop, a lit UFO model, and an orange crepe paper cutout, we took our first exposure. Then it was time for a second exposure on the same piece of film, focusing out over the road, just like Ed Walters did.
Ugh. The issue I have with the one on with the news demonstration, that one seems to be kind of fuzzy. Ed's photo looks more crisp, like it's not a double exposure. It looks like it's literally just a single exposure. He was literally in his car and he took the photo. That's what it looks like. The other one is just it's too fuzzy for my liking.
I never faked a photograph. What I have photographed is absolutely genuine. In the skies over our town. No question about it.
Ed always told me that he'd go to the grave, that he would never admit to it being fake.
Even with the Ed Walters controversy put aside, a tantalizing mystery remains. What are we to think of the hundreds of eyewitness accounts from Gulf Breeze residents who insist they have seen the same UFOs that were photographed by Ed Walters?
We saw what we saw, and they'll never convince.
And see, that's something that people also tend to forget, that it wasn't just Ed Walters or Ed Waters, whatever his last name is. It wasn't just him. There were a whole bunch of other people that saw UFOs. So even let's say even if Ed was lying, then we still have these other UFOs that all these other people thought about.
Me or Charlie either that object wasn't out over the bay at that time, and that Ed photographed it that evening.
What I saw was certainly not a small model made out of paper plates or any other small model. It was a major object.
I still know what I saw, and what I saw looked like Ed Walters' photographs.
There's no doubt in my mind that what I saw looked exactly like what Ed Walters photographed. I don't see how he could have hoaxed what we saw over the bay.
There's lots of objects flying around.
Like I said, take it to Hollywood. Take all these photos. Take these photos. Take the photos that other people took. Take all these photos to Hollywood and see if they could do something. Like can you show us how this could have been done? Yeah, especially the ones that were over the bay, especially.
Gulf Breeze, and it's no surprise that some of them will tend to look like Ed's photographs. that doesn't make them alien spacecraft, and it doesn't make them the same object that Ed photographed.
Those of us that have seen this thing know what we've seen. It does not matter what a naysayer says. A naysayer cannot believe it if he wants to. It does not change what we have seen and photographed.
A visitor from outer space, or a masterful hoax?
Oh God, like I said, the one on the left, the demonstration, it looks too fuzzy. It's too fuzzy. The other one, even though it's dark, yeah, it's dark, but it looks more sharp. It doesn't look like it has had layer upon layer upon layer of photos that were merged to make one. Okay, so that was it, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, this is a tough case. It's a tough case to really kind of form an opinion, because on one hand, I was like, how can you forget the prop in the house? How can you forget that? But then on the other hand, when they showed the how they could do it, the evidence that, like, that demonstration photo, the evidence was kind of fuzzy, if you ask me. So it's one of those cases. It's like, one way or another, you're gonna have to make a choice. Either like you're either on the side that you believe it, or you're on the other side that you don't believe it. Part of me is starting to believe the guy, but then again, there's the issue with the prop. And let's say regarding the prop, it could have been placed by somebody who wanted to do damage to Ed's reputation. But we will find out about what happened next when we go to the Unsolved Mysteries Wiki right now. If you are new to this series, this is basically where I go to the Unsolved Mysteries Wiki and we look up the case to see if there's been any further updates than what we already know from the televised broadcasts. Okay, so let's do this. There we go. Okay, so we are on the Unsolved Mysteries Wiki. Here is the information. Case file Gulf Breeze UFO. The location was Gulf Breeze, Florida. The date was November 11th, 1987 to July 1988. Gulf Breeze, and the description reads, Gulf Breeze is a small city in Florida's northwest coast, or on Florida's northwest coast, with a population of about 6,000 people at the time of the UFO sightings. It is located near a military base. The strange glowing lights seem to surround mysterious structures resembling flying saucers. Now, they said 6,000 people as of the time of the UFO sightings. I'm curious, what is it now? Let's see here. Let's see. What is the current population of Gulf Breeze, Florida? Let's do this. As of 2026, Gulf Breeze, Florida has an estimated population of 7,219 residents, reflecting a steady growth since the 2020 census. So it's actually increased by roughly 1,200 people. I think they're actually smaller than where I live, actually, though, their numbers. I may be wrong, though. I think my location is like 13,000. I may be wrong, though. Okay, so we know the description, we know the location, the case file, the date, and all that. We're going to move down past the history of the case because we already know what happened. There's a picture of Ed and Francis Walters. So we're just going to skip past this because this is actually a very long entry, and I'd probably destroy my throat trying to read all of that. So here, I'm going to stop right here. So the background, Ed Walters is a building contractor and developer. He has lived on Silverton Road in Gulf Breeze with his wife Frances and 2 children for nearly 10 years. That was during the UFO epidemic at that time. Okay, we already know the investigation. So we're going to keep scrolling. Like I said, this was a long entry. Holy cow. Okay. Extra notes. This case first aired on the October 5th, 1988 episode. It was updated on the October 3rd, 1990 episode. It was excluded from the film rights release of Robert Stack episodes. During the segment, Stack stood with 33 residents of Gulf Breeze who claimed to have seen a UFO. And this was what I was kind of mentioning, where normally you may see people like moving about in the background, but for him to literally stand with people like this, it's kind of a rarity for Unsolved Mysteries. It is one of the few cases with a full-length update. Oh my god. Like I said, half the video that we watched was that update. This wasn't like a 25-minute case with like a 3-minute update. No. It was like I think it was like a 15-minute case possibly with like a 17-minute update. I think the update actually went longer than the base case itself. Dr. Maccabee and Bob, I don't know how to pronounce that, were also featured in the Guardian UFO segment. That's what I was talking about earlier. If you remember, I talked about the VHS tape and the thumbprint or the fingerprint. Due to the controversy surrounding the sightings, Ed Walters used a fictitious name of Ray and was not interviewed during the original segment. He also used Mr. X, Mr. Ed, and Jim when interviewed by local newspapers. Let's see here. He was also not interviewed for the original segment. After the broadcast in 1989, he went public with a book about his experiences called The Gulf Breeze Sightings, the most astounding multiple sightings of UFOs in U.S. history. And I can actually see why people think he may have been in it for money. He sold a book after all. On one hand, I can actually see where people are kind of skeptical about Ed and his claims. However, you then go to see the lengths of what the people were trying to do to prove him wrong. And it's one of those situations, basically, where it kind of makes you scratch your head. Like, one minute you can find yourself totally agreeing with Ed. The next, you may be kind of on the fence. Then the next minute, you may be against Ed. And then you hear something from Ed, and it's like, okay, well, that does make sense. This is one of those cases where I think the viewer will be finding themselves constantly kind of unable to basically stick with a lane like I am, like, because one minute, like I said, I don't believe him. I'm thinking, okay, how could you leave the prop? How could you leave the prop in the house after you sold it? But then I start to think to myself, I'm like, well, did he really leave the prop, or was that prop placed there after he moved in order to discredit him down the road? Because isn't it kind of odd that after he moved out of that house, the news reporter would come over to the house and he actually asked, did you find anything? As if like he knew that maybe that these people may have found something over time. What if the person actually goes, no, we haven't found anything in the house. No, we haven't found anything yet. Did you check the attic? Well, I haven't been in the attic yet. Well, maybe you should go up there. Who knows? He's a curious individual. I find it kind of weird that this news guy, that he just showed up conveniently after Ed and his family moved and everything, and they found this prop. So like I said, on one hand, part of me is kind of critical of Ed, but then the next time I can be like, this guy may not be as guilty as a lot of people possibly think. Reporter Craig Myers also wrote a book about the case. War of the Words: The True But Strange Story of the Gulf Breeze UFO. It was profiled on A Current Affair, Inside Edition, the History Channel's UFO Hunters, and Beyond the Unknown. It was also profiled on a TV special, UFO Cover-Up Live, and briefly mentioned on an episode of The X-Files. Oh, I gotta find out which one that is. Some sources state Ed took 3 pictures the first night. The pictures were published on November 18th. Dwayne Cook's father-in-law saw the UFO. Art Huford's sightings was in the afternoon. Truman Holcomb's sightings was all on April 28th. The McConnell's sightings were in June. Dr. Maccabee's calculated the UFO to be 13 feet in diameter. Ed took 37, 38, or 125 pictures and had 33 or 64 sightings. Dr. Fenner McConnell was killed in a hit-and-run accident while riding a bike on July 5th, 1998. He was 63. The driver who struck McConnell turned himself in several hours later after seeing the local news that McConnell had been killed. Oh, geez. Okay, now for the results, we're going to scroll down. Suffice to say, it is unsolved. Here. It is unsolved, so just keep that in mind. I'm going to kind of scroll down towards the bottom because we already know what, the majority of the update was. Okay, let's see here. Yeah, like I said, there was a lot here. Okay, hold on. Let's see here. Contrary to the claims by Ed and his supporters that he refused money for telling his story, the Pensacola News Journal reported that he had received a $200,000 book advance and was offered $450,000 by ABC for mini-series rights. The paper also reported that Ed had served 18 months in prison for forgery. Ooh. And auto theft in 1967 and was pardoned in 1990. Craig Myers is confident that Ed, a known prankster, faked the pictures. He believed it was started as a fun prank, but then snowballed from there. And that's kind of what I was mentioning when I said he originally took that first picture. And then after he took that first picture, he realized that people started talking about it. And then maybe, just maybe, he started liking the attention that these photos were getting him. Let's see here. In 1991, several Gulf Breeze and Pensacola residents reported more UFO sightings. Some saw a glowing red light, while others saw an elliptical ring of white lights. Carol Salisbury witnessed one of the sightings. She believes the UFOs were flares. In November 1992, Ed and Frances divorced. They split $2.5 million in assets, which Curtis believes. Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on. Where was that? Okay. Which Curtis believes came from the UFO pictures and subsequent book deals. The sightings stopped around 1993. Ed claims he experienced over 100 sightings and 100 sightings and abductions over 6 years and took 38 pictures. He also wrote 3 books. He has since moved to Pensacola and no longer speaks with the media. Sadly, several of the people involved in this case have since passed away, including Charles and Dorothy Somberby, Sommerby, Dwayne Cook, Fenner and Shirley McConnell, Billy Zammit, John Broxson, Buddy Pollock, Dr. Maccabee, Dr. Willie Smith, Philip Klass, Bob Menzer, and Dr. Nathan. Okay, so that kind of basically puts the period towards, the information regarding this case. Like always, I'm going to start trying to put a QR code in this video that will lead you to this to this wiki, so you all can read the full entry and you can make an informed decision yourself. I only like to read these and then give the viewer a choice about what they believe and what they do not believe. Regarding the links, there are a lot of links. Normally I don't look at the links. The only links I look at are like the it's when a person dies, they have like information, but it looks like that even though a lot of people have died in this regarding this case, none of it was publicized, so I can't really click on anything, or there's nothing here to click on regarding that. But yeah, as you can see here, there are numerous links. They go all the way back from, let's see, from December 3rd, 1987, as recent as April 19th, 2025. So when you go to this wiki entry, you will actually find a lot of interesting links. Okay, up next we have the episode information. Basically for this, I go back to the Unsolved Mysteries wiki and we look up what was also sharing that episode along with the Gulf Breeze UFO. So the oddly enough, they have Gulf Breeze listed as a legend. It should have been the unexplained because that's what it was on the show. Then we have the update to the wanted case of Louis Carlucci. Basically, Louis Carlucci, if I remember correctly, he was a guy who would basically hire, or not hire, marry ladies, and then he would basically use them until they were basically broke. He was, I'm not sure if con man is the right word, but let's see what he was basically a user. He used these ladies, and the last lady that they profiled on that episode, if I remember correctly, it was to the point she actually hated the position she was in, being married to Louis Carlucci, and she actually slit her wrist. She either attempted to slit her wrist or she did slit her wrist. But yeah, it was not a pretty picture. Thankfully, he was actually apprehended. After that, we have the case of Joe Shepard. If I remember correctly, he was a criminal who was sentenced to prison. It could, I think it could have been for murder. I may be wrong. And he ended up let's just take a look. Actually, let's just take a look. Okay, maybe I was wrong. I thought that this was one of those cases where a person is sentenced to prison for murder. They get like into a pen pal relationship with somebody, and they convince that person to help them escape. I may be wrong about that though. Looks like he was just your typical criminal who was sentenced to prison for murder, and he basically escaped. And then finally, we have the case, sadly, of Gail Delano. Basically, this one is a heartbreaker. Basically, Gail Delano, she didn't have the best of luck when it came to relationships, and she really wanted to find that that special somebody. She started going like you doing personal ads in the newspaper, and her last communication, I think it was with her son possibly, was that she was going to meet one of her friends or one of her suitors, or however you want to pronounce it, at a restaurant. Well, they found her car, and I think they found her purse in a bush. Well, they didn't find her, and the theory was that they thought she was kidnapped. They thought that basically the guy that she went to go see ended up kidnapping her. When in reality, and the person's name was John, by the way. When in reality, the truth was actually kind of it was sad, and kind of depressing. Basically, what it was that Gail, she checked into a hotel between 10 and 11 p.m. on the 21st of June, 1986, under the name of Jackie Stafford. I know you can't see it because of my camera. And basically, she committed suicide by overdosing in medication. And that's basically what ended up happening to her. She wasn't kidnapped, but sadly, she basically, a lot of these cases when a person commits suicide, I'm not talking about criminals who commit suicide to get out of the crime that they did or paying the punishment, basically. I'm talking about people who are good people that end up committing suicide. I think that sometimes they do this because they basically just run out of hope. They run out of hope. They run out of, like optimism. And sadly, they think that the only way out is to end their life, basically, which it's ultimately, it's sad. It's sad because I'm pretty sure that if somebody showed her the attention that she was hoping to get, that maybe she could have still been alive at this point. But those were the cases that were part of this episode of Unsolved Mysteries. I didn't even realize it until now, but this was the very first episode according to Unsolved Mysteries Wiki. So basically what we saw was actually the very first case that was not part of the specials that were hosted prior to the official launch of Unsolved Mysteries. So basically we have the Gulf Breeze UFO, Louis Carlucci, Joe Shepard, and Gail Delano. If I was to give this episode a grade, I would give it a pretty good, like a B plus. Normally for me, I prefer these episodes to have a ghost case, UFO case, or maybe a murder case, and it actually had those. The only downside I feel is I think that the Louis Carlucci case was a little bit shorter. I may be wrong, but overall a B plus is actually still pretty good. The only reason I also give it a B plus is there is no, when it comes to the Gulf Breeze UFO, there isn't any real conclusion. The viewers are left kind of wondering, was this a hoax? Was this real? Where does the truth lie, basically? So that's why I give it a B plus. It's still a great episode, especially for it being the first episode of Unsolved Mysteries. But yeah, so that is what there was on October 5th, 1988. But that is it, ladies and gentlemen. Another installment of Unsolved Mysteries Commentary has been put in the books, basically. Today we watched the case of the Gulf Breeze UFO. We heard about both sides of this controversy. There are people who take Ed Walters' side and say that this was the real deal, but then we also have people who claim that this was a fake, it was a phony, it was a hoax. Ultimately, it's up to you, the viewer, where you stand on this case. For me, it's one of those cases. It's like I find myself kind of constantly going back and forth, mainly because of the fact of that prop. Was the prop there when Ed Walters and his wife moved out? Was it placed after he moved out as a way to discredit him? Was it a plant via that news reporter? That news reporter seemed to have been kind of keyed into the idea that there could have been something going on, So it's really one of those cases that makes you kind of have to wonder, like, where does the truth lie? Was it all a lie? Was it all a truth? Was there a little bit of truth? Was there a little bit of lies? Who knows, But that is it, ladies and gentlemen. I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who took the time to watch this video. This is actually a longer video, and it's kind of because of the fact that the case itself with the update and everything went over 30 minutes. I was actually shocked at how long this case was. But sometimes we all deserve to have a long case, don't we? You know. But that is it. I just want to say once again, thank you to everybody who has taken the time to watch this video, and I will see you next time. My name is Jeff, aka GCurse. I will see you in the next installment of Unsolved Mysteries Commentary. Peace out.